Alright, here's how you do a rear wheel bearing on a C4 Corvette. Here's the C4 Corvette 95, and here's the rear wheel bearing. 44 bucks on Amazon.com. 36mm socket for the giant nut in the middle. T55 impact Torx for the hub. Lug nut size socket. Pliers for the cotter pin to take this 36mm nut off. Loctite for the brake caliper bracket bolts. An 18mm socket for those bolts for the brake caliper. And then my little special BMX seat post leverage extender for my trusty 3/8 Craftsman ratchet. And then, not to forget, this guy. Central Pneumatic Earthquake half 700 foot-pound capacity impact gun. Buy this thing if it's on sale. Alright, here's a demo of this thing. It's pretty awesome. Effortless. Boom. Wow. Alright, the wheel is off. Here's the only safe place to support a C4 Corvette in the rear. This little triangular area is a support for the frame. Put the jack stand in that spot. Here's the context. That's the place to support it. Alright. Here's the castle nut and cotter pin, so take this guy out. Take this off. And there's your 36mm nut. Wow. Here's the caliper bracket bolts. This is the upper one. Holds the caliper bracket to the hub. And this is why I use this little leverage tool here. You just loosen the end. Alright, here's the other caliper bracket bolt. This is the underside here. So there's the side of the car. That bolt there, holding the caliper bracket to the hub assembly. Alright, now the caliper is unbolted. So, take the caliper off. Then you hold on to it and take the rotor off. Then you put the caliper back on with the bolt the caliper bolt that held the caliper in. Alright, so you slide the rotor off. Then put the caliper back on and put one of the bolts in that holds it. Because all you're doing is getting clearance for the hub to come out this way. So you just take the rotor off. Then you hang the caliper back with its own bolt so the brake hose doesn't get kinked. There. So I've taken the wheel off, I've taken the nut off in the center of the hub, the axle nut. I've taken the rotor off. Hung the caliper back on with one of its own bolts. This is all you need to take off. You do not need to take anything off. No suspension parts, no sway bars, no control arms, no links, not even the half shaft. I'll show you how to remove this thing with just the way it is. The 3 bolts are all that are left to replace this hub. So, a good thing to do to prep this, and the other one over here are the 3 hub bolts. They come in through the back of the hub assembly, the control arm assembly, the knuckle, through this sort of brake caliper bracket hub holder into the hub. So you want to spray something like this on these bolts so they loosen easily. Sometimes these will be full of oil and already be sort of pre-lubed to come out, but sometimes they're rusty and you need to put something on them so they don't stick in there. Just makes your life easier, like so. They're all wet and happy. Here's another thing I learned. This is the speed pickup for the ABS. goes through with the sensor. This bolt, don't ever touch this bolt because it is seized into this aluminum corrosion between the steel bolt and aluminum arm, and this thing will snap right off when you try to loosen it. Then you'll be spending more time than it took to do the entire hub replacement just to retap and replace this bolt when you didn't even need to take it out in the first place. So don't even touch this thing, you don't need to. There's a lot of people that put all kinds of instructions on how to take everything apart. You don't need to do that. Just take these 3 bolts out from the back side and I'll show that. Alright, so now the car is up on jack stands safely in that special area in the frame. Front tires are on the ground. Car's in neutral. I can spin this hub with my hand pretty much. Let it slip means the tire turns the same way. And now I've got a impact T55 and an extension on the back of this bolt right here. This guy. So all I have to do is put the impact on it and pull the trigger and boom, this bolt flies right out. So we'll see that. Okay, impact is on. If I pull the trigger, this guy should disappear. Boom. And there's one of the hub bolts. Took about 3 seconds to take it out. No damage to the Torx or to the rest of the bolt. Looks good. Again, here's your tool of choice. This awesome impact, an impact Torx. Both of these were purchased at Harbor Freight Tools for a reasonable price, and then an extension to get access to it deep inside the hub up in here. So the top bolt is a little tricky to get to with the half shaft in there, but you can get to it. So if I show this, it's very hard to see, but you can see that. There, it's in. Got it. Now, how to get the impact on it. There. Alright, on top again. Here's that T55 Torx with an extension on it, 6-inch. There's the bolt, the last one. Other 2 are gone. And here's my ratchet. So I put this thing in here like this, ran the hose over the muffler, and now I just got to get this thing on here. And then pull the trigger and it's out. Sorry. 3-inch extension with the U-joint. And here's the impact in here. Top bolt. Alright, it worked. Here's the impact U-joint, 3-inch extension. The bolt is loose. Obviously everything's loose. Now you have to stick a screwdriver in this and pry the hub away from this hub holder. So we'll do that next. Alright, here we go. Sorry. Good. And your old bearing is out. Now, important, see this thing that just fell off? This is a Teflon coated washer. This goes in here. And see how the splines are all rusty? Grease everything in here, including this washer. This washer is what keeps the car from making that clicking sound when you put it in reverse and drive when you're stopped. Foot's on the brake, put it in reverse, it goes then you put it in drive, it goes from either wheel. This is the thing that keeps it from making that noise. So no more noise if you grease this thing and torque it to the right spec, which is like 200 foot-pounds. Used to be 160, now it's like 200. And here's the washer, dish side out, so the flare goes towards the outside. Grease with Mobil 1 grease. This is good stuff. Mobil 1 synthetic grease. It's expensive. It used to be like $5 a tube. Now it's like $11 a tube, but it's well worth it because it's, you don't mess around with grease. Get the best stuff. So the splines are greased. The anti-noise washer is greased. And here's the new hub. It's all shiny and beautiful. And we just put this guy on. Here's maybe a helpful tip. When you put the new hub on, actually when you take the old one off, leave all of the stuff that you used to loosen the bolt in there, including the bolt. That makes it that much easier to line it up when you put it in. So as soon as you get this first bolt starting, the thread started, then you can pull the hub all the way in and the other bolts will line up. Torque all 3 hub bolts to 67 foot-pounds with a torque wrench, 6-inch extension, and that same T55 Torx impact bit. Alright, it's torqued. The hub is torqued. The nut is torqued. Now here's a note about this little castle nut thing. Obviously you got to put the cotter pin in this hole. So you want to line this up, and this has different, see, it doesn't line up, doesn't line up, lines up. So you keep playing with it until you get it to line up. You don't have to turn the nut to make it line up. That's not what you want to do. Torque it, leave it, make this guy line up, then you put the cotter pin in it so it looks like this. Then you Loctite the caliper bolts and move the caliper out of the way and put the rotor on, put the caliper on, torque the bolts up, and then you put the wheel back on and you're done. Torque the wheel, put the little caps on the wheel, lug nuts, and you're done. Lower it. Enjoy.